Alright, are you having trouble clutching out games or closing out rounds? If so, this video might help you out. Actually, before I start the video, I just want to give a quick shout out to every single person that subscribed. I'm so close to 1,000 subscribers. I never would have thought this when I started this channel a few months back. So if you're watching this content or you like my content, I'd appreciate that subscription. Getting to 1,000 would actually make me very happy. And I just love all the feedback that I've gotten from everybody. Everyone's been so supportive and helpful to all the videos that I've made, and it honestly makes me excited to make the next one. And I'll be honest with you, this Canadian boy might need your help because Donald Trump imposing these tariffs on Canada, I might need all the subscriptions I can get, if you know what I mean. So real talk, all joking aside, thank you to everyone that's helped out. Plenty more to come, and shout out to everyone that supported. Now listen, we've all been there. We're winning a round or winning a game, we have the opponents on the rope, but we just can't finish the job. We can't seal the deal. And it doesn't matter for a pro level player or an amateur player, we've all been through it. And it's actually one of the hardest things to do in a fighting game. And in all honesty, I think Street Fighter 6 might be one of the hardest fighting games to actually close out an opponent, because there are a few factors like no chip damage, and your opponent is always one button away from hitting you for 50 plus damage, 60% damage. So you're always playing at a knife's edge. So the main reason I want to make this video is I just want people to improve in those clutch moments, and I also want them to just feel more comfortable in those moments as well, because we're going to find ourselves in them a lot more than you think. And the other thing is I'll be showing examples from my own gameplays to show you where I made mistakes or where I could have done things better, but then I'll also have some other examples to show you what you should be looking out for. I promise these tips will make you better, and in the long run you'll be winning a lot more games. Hope you like it. Alright, so consistently closing out your opponent when they have low health all comes down to taking calculated risk, and the better you're taking calculated risk, the more chances you're going to have to end an opponent. But if you don't know what to look out for, you won't be taking calculated risks, you'll just be taking normal risks, and that's not good. So these are the 5 pillars I want you to look at before we start looking at some calculated risk. The first are both people's life bar, so your life bar and your opponent's life bar. The second thing is both players' resources. So how much super do you both have? How many drive bars do you both have? The third thing is how much time is left on the clock. The fourth thing is what round are you in? And the fifth thing is what is your opponent's character specifically capable of? Or in other words, what do they need to get big damage off and get the party started for them? Alright, so each one of those pillars work together. I'm going to show you some replays of mine to show you exactly how that is. But first, I just want to talk about the life lead because it's one of the most important reasons that I made this video. The first thing is, when your opponent just has a pixel of health left like this, I want you to remember a very important Justin Wong tip. He was making a video a few years back and he says when your opponent only has enough damage to absorb, a light punch or a medium punch before they're toast, these are the buttons you should be focusing on and pushing, because one, they're very quick, and second, if they hit your opponent, they're going to do the job. They're going to do what they have to do. They're going to end the round. And you don't want to be using, these heavy normals, even if they might be some of your stronger normals. Because the reason for that is, in Street Fighter 6, it's so easy to whiff punish, where if my opponent has a read on me, they're going to be able to whiff punish me big time and then go on their way and do some massive damage. But if I'm throwing out quick jabs, it's a lot harder for them to get that big damage combo off or a punish counter combo off. And I'm actually able to block in return and then go on my way as well to try to have some counterplay. But in these situations, when a jab will do the job, that's all you should focus on. And then the last general tip I'm going to give before I get into some of the replays are, if your character has a jab into a drive rush, you need to master combos that go into it. And the reason for that is, a jab does a measly 300 damage, but the fact that you can drive rush into something bigger, you can do well over 20% off a basic drive rush if you have the bar. And 20% is your opponent's yellow health that you see at the top over there. That means they're not going to have any health left by the end of the combo if you do it correctly. And this is so important because it takes a lot of things out of your opponent's control, because like I said, the lights are so fast in this game that as long as you can combo into it or find some way to combo into it, you're going to be saving yourself tons of rounds in the long run. Alright, so let's look at some of these replays together. This was a game that I played the other night, and as you can see, both my opponent and I are both on low health. But I want you to know a couple things. I want you to think back to the pillars that I was talking about. The first thing I notice here is, one, I have more health than my opponent, which means I'm happy to take trades like that. I'm going to pause it here just to show you he's much closer to being defeated than I am, and I'll take this trade 10 times out of 10. The second thing I notice is I have more drive bar than them. They're burnt out. So I can move back and, slowly start throwing fireballs, just to be annoying like that. I know my opponent will either have to block this or react to it. And because he only has a level 1 or 2 available, he can't really do a fireball or a super through this because Ken's supers are not fireball invincible unless he has a level 3. That's when I go in for this pressure, and even though this pressure, believe it or not, is not completely safe, if my opponent had the read, he could do a level 1 or a Shoryuken through this. But because I played him earlier in the set, I knew that he did not know this setup, so I just kept going for it. But this is what I mean of an example of a calculated risk. I not only looked at their health, I looked at their drive bar and their super bar resources available. I used 3 of the 5 pillars I mentioned to get the W. So this next example, it just shows off I had a very lucky round against my opponent where basically everything I wanted to do worked out for me. I got the shimmy off, I got the corner carry. Over here, I went for the level 3. I didn't know if it was going to kill, but I still went for it because again, I looked at the pillars and took the calculated risk. First thing I said was, 1, I have more health than them. So if Ken is going to make a comeback, he's got to hit me a few times. He doesn't have a level 3 available yet, so he's not going to be able to do like super big boy damage. And by the time he gets to level 3, I should have my drive bar back because I'm building my drive bar back like this as well. So this is a risk that I was happy to take. If it didn't kill, he'd be left at a pixel of health, and he still has to take all the risk to get at me. Those are more pillars I looked at. Here's another example where I just look at life bar. As you can see, my opponent has a pixel of health left. So I told myself, I'm going to go for this drive impact because if they drive impact me back, you're going to see over here, they don't have enough health to absorb that hit, and they're going to actually lose the round before they get the counter off. The beauty part here is the risk comes from, where the calculated risk is, if my opponent was to perfect parry this, they could, maybe do some damage and then put me in burnout, but then they would lose their level 3 and it wouldn't do as much damage as, a raw level 3. So this is one of those things where I was happy to just throw this out there to see if my opponent knew how to perfect parry against it. And if not, I was going to be able to win the round because he couldn't absorb this. Now this example shows what to do if your opponent's burnt out and you have a fireball character. As you can see, I know that my opponent is not going to want to absorb another fireball because he can't take the chip. So I'm able to react with a dash forward into an uppercut. But here's the thing you need to remember for this lesson. This is all about being a bully when your opponent's in drive bar. Your character might not have a fireball, but they're going to have something they can abuse against someone that's burnt out. Like take Manon, for example, a character with no fireball. Her stand medium punch is plus, when she does it, and it's very quick. It moves her forward. There's always going to be something your character can do to be annoying when your opponent's in burnout. You just have to figure that out. In this situation, remember, you control all the space, and then you can actually make them pay because they're going to want to get out of a sticky situation like this. Here's another example. I did a wake up DP in this situation, and I didn't care if someone called me a scrub when I did it, because you know why? I took a calculated risk. Remember I said one of the pillars are who is the character you're facing and what they're capable of? I know Chun-Li is not a big damage character, especially when she doesn't have many resources available. So I said, you know what? I'll take the risk and let this DP rip, and guess what? It worked out. And if it didn't work out, how much damage could she really do to me in the long run? I'll still have a ton of drive bar and have a super myself, so I'd still be a hit away from the kill. But this is how I calculated I was going to end this game against Chun-Li. And you know what? I'll be pretty mad if someone did this to me, but I'm happy I did it. So here's an example of where I actually mess up my calculated risk. So right off the bat, I messed my combo up here. This was supposed to go into a level 2 for the win, but I wasn't quick enough. I got chubby fingers and I'm paying for it now. But they're at a pixel of health. I'm still in the driver's seat to a bit. And look what I'm doing. I'm playing so silly. I'm moving backwards. Why am I jumping backwards? It's not smart because you leave yourself open to something like that. A drive impact off a block string. And my opponent, they had their combos on point and they got me with the kill. All of this happened just because I wasn't comfortable playing close to them. I was one hit away. Even if I jabbed them through this drive rush or drive impact, they would have lost the game because they didn't have enough health. But I didn't calculate this because I started to panic. The funny thing is, even though that was up in the set, my opponent actually left the game right after this. I think he wanted to add salt into the wounds that I kind of let this game choke. And you know what? It worked because it was kind of salty after. But real talk, you can't play into your opponent's hands, stand your ground, and use those calculated risks. And the last replay is a bit of a longer one, but it shows all of the pillars that I mentioned before in one video. So first of all, I look at the life lead. I'm okay to try to trade this fireball. It didn't work in my favor, but you know what? It's a calculated risk. If I hit Ryu, he would have lost, but he didn't do that much damage to me in the long run. Now I'm just looking at the clock. As you can see, my opponent wasted all of his resources, so I know I at least have the drive bar advantage. So for 13 seconds, I just hold down back the entire way because I know the only way he can open me up is with a crouch attack. So I just block and block. I'll take the grab, I'll take overheads, I'll do whatever, as long as I just don't give my opponent the chance to hit me with something that can combo into his critical art, because obviously that's what he's looking for. So in this situation, I know what my character is capable of that I'm playing against. I know Ryu doesn't have a command grab, so I'm okay to let him be in Terry's face as long as he wants. I know that I have the life lead, so I can play lame. I know I have the clock on my hand, so I can try to timer scam them. And I know they don't have any drive bar, so they can't get any drive rush overheads into big combos. I was able to calculate all of this right away because I put the time into thinking about this stuff in every game that I play. And I promise the more you do this stuff, the more it becomes second nature and you're going to be a pro in no time. And that's the video. If you liked it, just tell me how handsome I am in the comment section. But seriously, if you stuck around this long, you definitely want to improve, and I promise you'll get better if you implement these tips. Look out for these things and keep leveling up. Peace out, everybody.